A single sheet hits the NASCAR rulebook, and it changes the whole thing. The sanctioning body is now moving to kill the exact technique that made Shane van Gisbergen untouchable on road courses. Real. Confirmed. And nobody wants to say this out loud. You don't outlaw something that fails. Rules like that get saved for what wins too much, too often, too easily. So when they slam that door on one driver's method, it isn't punishment. It's a confession, dressed up as paper. Before Ghost Lap breaks down every layer, drop your home state below. Where's everybody watching from tonight? But before that door ever closed, nobody in the garage thought it would need to. Rewind to 2023. An Australian kid walks in from Supercars. A champion over there, sure. But a total stranger here. 0 oval laps. 0 stock car seasons. 0 reason, in their eyes, to take him seriously. And oh, they talked. Notice the shape of the doubt. They weren't just betting against the driver. They were betting against the method, the whole way he attacked a corner, the entire philosophy under his hands. Veterans who'd spent 20 years in these cars looked at his style and saw a mistake waiting to happen. Crew chiefs shrugged. Rivals smirked behind their hands. The smart money in the sport lined up on one side, and that side said the same thing in 100 different voices. His technique won't work. These weren't fools. Every single last one of them knew racing inside and out. So how did all that experience, all that certainty, get it so completely wrong? Notice the shape of the doubt. They weren't just betting against the driver. They were betting against the method, the whole way he attacked a corner, the entire philosophy under his hands. Veterans who'd spent 20 years in these cars looked at his style and saw a mistake waiting to happen. Crew chiefs shrugged. Rivals smirked behind their hands. The smart money in the sport lined up on one side, and that side said the same thing in 100 different voices. His technique won't work. These weren't fools. Every single last one of them knew racing inside and out. So how did all that experience, all that certainty, get it so completely wrong? The answer isn't skill. It's psychology. There's a wiring fault in the human brain, and it has a name. Status quo bias.
He came over from New Zealand and shocked.
When something's been done one way for long enough, people stop asking if it's the best way. They just assume it is. Familiar starts to feel like proof, even when it isn't. Welcome to the trap NASCAR walked into. For decades, the sport braked one way through a road course corner. Smooth, patient, roll the speed, protect the tires, don't overdrive it. And it worked, so nobody questioned it. 20 years of doing a thing tends to feel like 20 years of being right. But those aren't the same. Not even close. Here's the piece other channels skip, and it's exactly why hitting subscribe on Ghost Lap is worth 10 seconds. Everybody else will read you the rule change and call it a day. This channel tells you what's happening underneath it, inside the heads of the people making these calls. This is the story behind the story. Go tap that button, and let's keep going. Because the old technique was never actually tested against a better one. It was just old, comfortable, unchallenged. The garage confused, we've always done it this way, with, this is the way it should be done. Then a stranger showed up breaking late, deep, and hard, breaking every unwritten rule of the place, and winning. Which raises the real question, the one the band tries to hide. If his way was so wrong, why did the sport suddenly need a brand new rule to stop it? Picture what a rulebook actually is. It's not a diary of everything that ever happened in a sport. It's a list of threats, the things powerful enough to matter. Nobody writes a rule against losing. Sit with that. A governing body never once stopped the meeting to outlaw a slow car. It doesn't ban the guy running 20th. Failure regulates itself. It just fades, quiet and forgotten, no paperwork required. The rulebook only moves when something starts winning so much that ignoring it stops being
He came over from New Zealand and shocked.
What does it mean then, when NASCAR reaches for the pen? It means the thing they're banning wasn't a fluke. It was a force. And that flips the whole story on its head. This ban was never a punishment aimed at one driver. Read it for what it really is, a confession, in writing, signed by the sport itself. Every line of that rule change says the same quiet thing, the old way lost, and we know it lost. And we'd rather change the paper than admit our veterans got beat fair. This is the part that should give you chills. One outsider, one man they laughed at 18 months earlier, forced an entire sanctioning body to rewrite its own rules just to survive him. You don't do that to a novelty. You don't do that to a gimmick. You do that to a threat you can't beat on the track, so you go beat it on paper instead. The ban isn't proof he was wrong. It's the loudest proof imaginable that he was right. But how good, exactly? Let's go see the receipts. Start at Sonoma. Van Gisbergen led 74 of 110 laps, in a car his own crew chief called subpar. Read that twice. Not the best machine on the grid, not even the best in his own shop by the man tuning it, and he still ran away from the field like the rest of them were parked. Now Watkins Glen. Same story, different corners. He shows up, he adapts, he wins. Then look at the record book. The road course win record in that lower series? Broken in 39 starts. It took Marcos Ambrose, a road ringer everybody respected, 77. SVG did it in half the tries. The numbers keep climbing. 8 cup wins, every single one on a road or street course, in roughly 64 starts. That puts him level with Tony Stewart, one behind Jeff Gordon. Names that took full careers, hundreds of races, whole legacies to build. This kid did it in about 2 seasons of chances. Let that scale sink in. You can argue with an opinion. You can wave off a hot take. What you can't do is argue with a stat sheet that reads like a typo. Every lap led, every trophy, every record snapped in half. It's stacked up into a wall the sport couldn't see around. And that's the trap a governing body walks into. When the evidence gets this loud, doing nothing becomes its own kind of statement. Now they had a choice. Let it keep happening, or stop it. They chose to stop it, which tells you exactly how scared the numbers made them. Scared of what, though? Not the man. The mirror. Look at the choice NASCAR actually faced, stripped of all the polish. Option 1, go to the veterans, the legends, the fan favorites, and tell them to adapt. Learn the new way. Break later. Change, or get left behind. Option 2, leave the old guard alone and just handcuff the outsider. Guess which one felt safer? Asking your stars to admit they've been beaten is a nightmare for any sport. Those veterans sell tickets. They move merchandise. They carry the history, the storylines, the faces on the posters. Telling them the 25-year-old from Australia races better than you now, that's a wound the whole business flinches from. The sport picked the quiet path. Protect the past, regulate the future, and dress it up nice. They'll frame the ban as fairness, competitive balance, keeping the racing close for everybody. Sounds noble, right? But peel the label off and look underneath. This isn't about balance. It's about comfort, the deep, organizational need to keep the familiar faces.
He came over from New Zealand and shocked.
Intact. Call it institutional self-preservation. A body protecting itself, its stars, and its story, all while calling it good sportsmanship. Look how backwards that is. A driver exposes a better way to race, and the sport's answer isn't teach everyone that way. It's make that way illegal. The problem was never his technique. The problem was what his technique revealed, that the emperors of the sport had been racing a slower line for years. And now we get to what all of this really proves. It proves the simplest, sharpest thing in the world. They said his technique wouldn't work. It worked so well the rulebook had to bend around it. This isn't a debate anymore. It's a verdict. Being right while the entire room laughs at you, that's rare air. Most people who get doubted that hard just quietly fade and prove the doubters correct. He did the opposite. He took every smirk, every shrug, every won't cross over, and he answered all of it on the track. In hard numbers nobody could ever edit. The garage said novelty. The scoreboard said champion. But don't close the book yet, because a real question is sitting right here, and it's a good one. Does the ban actually stop him? Consider who they're dealing with. This is a man who learned oval racing from scratch and beat lifers at it. A man who walked into a foreign sport and rewrote its records in half the starts. Adapting fast isn't a phase for this guy. It's the whole engine of who he is. Maybe the rule slows him down for a season. Maybe it even stings. But betting against a driver who adapts quicker than the sport can even write new laws? History says that's a losing bet. The ban might not be the ending everybody thinks. It might just be the next chapter. And that's the fight worth watching.
He came over from New Zealand and shocked.
Right, that's settled. But whether a rulebook can outrun a man who's already proven he can't be outrun. Which leaves one last truth NASCAR really tried to bury. They didn't ban a technique. What they banned was the proof that their old way was beatable. And that's a very different thing. A rule can hide the truth for a while, but it can't erase it. Somewhere in that paperwork sits an admission the sport will never say out loud. He was right, and every one of them knew it. That's the lap nobody recorded. Stay tuned. Subscribe to Ghost Lap for the story behind the story every week.